If a designer asks us to design an element with a width of 300 pixels and 30 pixel padding in all four directions, it seems simple. Just declare the width as 300 pixels and the padding as 30 pixels. This is what you might expect. But here's the truth. In CSS, after you declare the width, the generated properties like padding or border add extra dimensions. This causes the actual width of the element to reach 360 pixels. To solve this, use the box sizing property with the value border box. The added width will fit within the original 300 pixels. This is a situation most people encounter without realizing it, until they start working, fulfill requirements, and receive feedback about the design error.
Shh.
You've probably wondered how to create multiple borders for a single element. And after researching, you've likely realized that's impossible. That's absolutely true, but not with this channel. Normally, when we need to add a border to an element, we directly use the border property in CSS. However, if you declare more than one border, the first border itself will be disabled. There is a perfect alternative for this case, which is the box shadow. A shadow has a base coordinate value, is not blurred, and is larger than the base element, which is a border. More importantly, there is no limit to the number of shadows an element can have, meaning you can create countless different borders this way. I have made a detailed video on 3 levels of using shadows in CSS. You can watch it if you want to learn more. In CSS, there's a popular and visually appealing way to create a background using the linear gradient function. This function creates a very smooth background color transition effect. However, there's also the repeating linear gradient function, which you may not know about, or may know about but not understand the context for which to use it. In this example, I'll use it to create white lines spaced 49 pixels apart to create a unique background effect. Similarly, if we add more horizontal lines, the current background will be incorporated into many squares. Don't forget to drink enough water to protect your health. You may have seen elements with very strange shapes that don't follow basic CSS rules. But actually, you can create any shape with just one line of CSS. Use the clip path property with the polygon function to create the X and Y coordinates of the plane. Then mark the coordinates of the points you want and list them here. The lines connecting these points are the cuts made by the element. With this method, you can create countless different shapes. You can also use the keyword clip path generator. There are many websites that help you cut faster instead of having to calculate. Additionally, if you want to level up your use of this property, you can refer to the video level 3 clip path in CSS. I currently have a demo website about technology devices. I created a link with the path is hash. No matter where the user is on the website, clicking on it will immediately take them to the top of the page. You've got the functionality to jump to the top of the page without any JavaScript code. If you want a smoother jump to the top, use the scroll behavior property with the value smooth. When writing blog content, you're probably familiar with numbering headings. In this case, I'm asked to number the heading tags. Everything would be fine if one day I needed to edit the content and inserted a piece of content at this position. In order, I would number this heading too, but that would also mean I'd have to change the numbering of the headings below. CSS has the ability to create an automatic counter for this heading tag. I point to the heading tag in the content class. I declare a counter increment with the value session. Now each heading tag has a variable named session whose value is equal to its number. Finally, I just use the virtual before element to insert any content before the heading. The content I'll pass here is the session value. With this method, when the content changes, the numbering before each heading also automatically updates accordingly. A website will have at least 4 basic components: header, navbar, main, and footer. And for layout design, nothing is more powerful than a display grid. For example, I want to divide the layout into 4 columns and 4 rows. Instead of trying to write complex code, I will do the following. I name the area for each component I want. Of course, you can name it anything. The header tag doesn't necessarily have to have the area name header. After naming them, I use grid template areas. I want the header to occupy 4 columns alone. The nav bar will take the next 2 rows. The remaining space in those 2 rows will belong to the main. And finally, the footer will be on the last row. Everything becomes much easier to visualize. And it will be even more convenient when adapting to different screen sizes, helping you optimize your coding time significantly. Currently, I have the following text. I used a radial gradient to create the background. Then I changed the transition area between the 2 colors. Next, I moved the center of the background to the position of the letter O. Now, I made the text color transparent. And I used a background clip with the value of text so that the background is cut to the shape of the text when it bounces. So, we have an interesting design that simulates a light bulb shining. Normally, to create a shadow for an element, we simply use a box shadow. However, if our element is a transparent background image, it won't work as intended because it will still treat it as a 4-sided solid. Instead, use a drop shadow. This will create a perfectly accurate shadow. I have a list of items in a class list. On a computer screen, I've divided it into 5 columns, which will gradually decrease as the screen size decreases. This task might seem like it would require many lines of CSS to adjust for each screen size, but this is actually the number of lines of code I used. With AutoFit, the number of columns will automatically adjust to fit the current screen size. And that's part 2 of today's top 10 CSS tricks list. If you haven't seen part 1, give it a try because there are many cool and interesting tricks. Which trick did you like best and would you like part 3? Let me know in the comments.